The pulse sufficiency is a top priority for India, and ICRISAT is helping India in developing the strategy. In fact, DG took initiative, and this document was prepared for Prime Minister Office, and submitted, and the team ICRISAT, worked with the national partner in India, many institutes, research, developmental policy makers, and a document was prepared and which was presented in Prime Minister's office. So this presentation will give just only the highlights, key strategies which have been proposed in this document for enhancing pulse sufficiency in India. Now, what actually, if you see the scenario that what is exactly happening at present, and you can see that if you take the average of last 3 years, India is producing about 18 million tons of pulses and consuming about 22 million of pulses. So there is a deficit of about 4 million tons of pulses currently. Now, of course, pulse sufficiency, is needed for food security, greater wealth, and of course this balance in trade because we are importing it. And the most important thing why it is being emphasized in India and Prime Minister is very keen is that the protein malnutrition problems, the nutritions, and it's very high still in India, and pulses, because large population of vegetarians are very much needed in Indian context. And you can see that the per capita consumption of the pulses is declining. You can see that continuously declining in India. Now this is the projection. Yeah, this is working. No, this is working. Yeah, this is the projections for 2050. We are expecting that the population will be 1.69 billion, and if you take that, the desired level 52 gram per capita per day, this is what we need is 39 million tons of pulses by 2050. So, and of course, this is a big challenge for India in reaching that target. But the government is very serious, and there is possibility that it can be achieved. Now, how can it be achieved? And this was the questions Peter was asking, that how can India achieve it? Now, this is the scenario of different states. And if you take the states where the area is high, we don't see much opportunity for expansion of area. There may be some opportunities, but not much. And this is where we have opportunity of enhancing productivity. If you see, still the productivity is very low as compared to many other countries. So in these states where you have large area, the focus will be on enhancing productivity. And the pink one, where you have large rice fallow areas, Bihar, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Orissa, and West Bengal, all the states, you have opportunity of expansion of area. And there are different estimates, and people say that, even 2-3 million hectares area, if additionally we can bring, India can reach to self-sufficiency. Now, what are the constants currently in pulses productions if you see? Still in India, despite having large number of varieties or technologies available, still if you see go around the farmers, many of the farmers are growing old varieties, age-old varieties, and not following the the improved production technologies. They are giving the all good inputs to the other crops. Like if you have a wheat in rabi seasons, and then they give priority to that, and very little inputs to this thing. So the first thing is that the farmers do not have knowledge of these in many cases, inadequate access of farmers to quality seed which is there, and then poor adoption of improved cultivars and recommended crop production technologies, nutrient management, water management, etc. And then you don't have lack of varieties which resist excessive vegetative growth. This is in good input conditions. This is a big I will say the demand from farmers that if they want to grow in good conditions, say in northern India, they need varieties which are responsive to these and give higher yield, and not give excessive vegetative growth and poor yield. Now, others, vulnerability of pulses to both biotic and abiotic stress. We all know that this gives unstable yields, and farmers, they want assured yields, and this is why in many cases, even if they have less profitability or same profitability, they go for assured crops. And the pulses are still, largely grown in marginal areas because they allocate good lands to, the other crops and in rain-fed conditions. Inadequate availability of, this is another thing, inadequate availability of labor-saving technologies. It's still, if you see that these crops, the harvesting is done manually, weeding is done manually, whereas you see the other crops, wheat and rice now, totally mechanized these things. Then the farmers are attracted to those crops where, they don't require much labor. And then storage space is a big problem in India, and lot of losses happen. People even say that even if you can control the storage losses, you have enough actually pulses in India. Now, interventions, we were asked to give, short-term, medium-term and long-term interventions where the government can pick up and, and see that if they can, want to support these. So what we have given here is only, I have taken few, actually the detailed documents, in the documents which we have developed, but some of these are given here. Now, one is that, earlier India had this, accelerated pulse production program, which was really very good. Later on, it was merged with others like National Food Security Missions. So the first recommendation was that, we should have it again, because this is very much needed. And it actually, takes care of all, developmental activities on pulses. And our economic colleagues from economics and policy groups, they worked out the cost-benefit ratio, and they say that it will require about rupees 400 crores investment, but the cost-benefit ratio will be 1:28 for this. Now another one is that we say that in case of pulses, the seed is the biggest problem. And if you see that the farmers, why they are going old varieties, many times they say that they don't have access to the seed. And this is where India is already giving a lot of emphasis actually. And if you see the recent strategy in India, they are going to develop 100 seed hubs in India. Each hub will be producing about 1,000 tons of seed. And this is how the plan is. So this is one area where both formal and informal, bringing the private sectors also motivate them in seed productions. And for this, our estimation was that it will require India about rupees 800 crores, and the cost-benefit ratio for this will be 1:28. Then the lot has been talked about rice fallows, and this is the opportunity for India to enhance pulses productions, because there is residual moisture available in a lot of the areas where you can take the second crop. The challenge is actually still the technologies. Challenge is the socio-economic regions. If some farmers they try, because all other land is fallow, there is a problem, social problem, grazing problem, theft problems, so you have to go in a mission mode if you want to utilize the rice fallows. We had recently, many brainstorming meeting in India, and this has come very clearly that if you want to use rice fallows, we can't go this scattered approach of, experiments. We have to adopt a village, take your all technologies together and go there, and in the whole village you plant the, your crop and demonstrate to the farmers. And then probably that way we will be able to make use of these rice fallows. And there are these many states where you can select the crops which will fit there. Mung bean, Urdwin may be a good candidate. Some places chickpea, some places lentil, some places lathras, because the ban has been lifted on lathras. Here we estimated that it will require 2,500 crores investments, and will have a cost-benefit ratio of 1:13. Now, another thing is that, as I said, that post-harvest losses is a very serious thing. Brookets in the pulses, and the way they are stored, there are heavy losses. And if we can even control these losses, we will have excess availability of pulses in India. And here, there are, now we know very well, there are several ways of, methods are available, and this is the matter of, how government, goes in a mission mode for this, promoting these. And for this, our estimation is that it will require 1,000 crore rupees investment, and will have a cost-benefit ratio of 1:23. Now coming to medium and long-term investments, and if India wants to have sustainable self-sufficiency, has to invest a lot in the technology development. Continue investing in technology development of varieties which meet the requirement of the changing scenario, changing cropping system, climate change, etc. And so we have listed few. It's not the exclusive list. This is just the key. We have listed here. One is very important in pulses is restructuring plant type for higher productivity. This is from northern India. If you see that you need different varieties, these varieties are not doing well in northern India. They are giving lot of problem. When you grow in heavy soils or when you get rains, there is a problem of lodging excessive growth. Then machine harvestable and herbicide tolerant variety. This is the top priority at present for pulses in India. You need to have these if you want to make them competitive. Otherwise, the new generations will move to other crops where they don't require too much labors. Climate smart and short duration variety cultivars. We are already seeing importance of short duration varieties. How the way the sowing patterns is changing, the cropping patterns are evolving. The sowing time is so surprising. We used to, when we studied sowing time for chickpeas, they said 15 September to 15 October. And nowadays farmers are planting from October to January. Whenever they get window of, they plant it. So we need varieties which fit in these different scenarios. Hybrid pigeon pea, and then we have to exploit wild species in VT technology for the part borer, which is the biggest problem in pulses, and refinement of integrated crop management practices. Actually, a lot to be done in this area in India. The varieties are reaching, but if you see the crop management practices, the use of nutrients, micronutrients is very minimal in India, and there is a lot of scope for that. And here we estimated that it will require about 7,000 crores of investment, and here the cost benefit ratio will be 1:52, which is very high. Then lot of policy interventions have been recommended, and some of the things were covered in earlier presentations. That of course one is we put is that you need to increase your investment in research. India need to increase investments. And then this program we already discussed, that accelerated pulse production program has to be again restarted. And then agro-eco-region based specific water harvesting and conservation management practices, because we see that in case of pulses, post-rabi season pulses, even one irrigations can have 20-30%, sometimes up to 50% increase in yield. So this is where a lot of emphasis has to be given. The strengthening of kharif pulse production area, because there is opportunity there. Yeah. And the government of India has to sustain the investment increase in pulse minimum support price. There is an urgent need of domestic price policy support and tariff, and the role of private sector has to be enhanced. And this is the last slide where we put all the the strategies we have proposed together, because I presented only few here, the key ones. We said that if you implement all these thing, the India will require together will cost about 11,700 crores over the next 10 years period. But this will give benefit of direct benefit of 118,000 crores rupees. So this is there will be indirect benefits also on the saving of nitrogens and other things. So this is what in nutshell, very brief, and if you want the detail, this is a document available on this, and this is evolving documents where we will be working on improving it based on the feedbacks. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Pooran, I was thinking of something, and I saw that Peter also wrote the question down. I think it would be nice sometime to give the dollar equivalent of the crore and the lakhs. So that way we get lost.
Exactly. I wanted to say in the beginning that this was actually, this is the presentation which was made in Prime Minister's office. So actually we had to do that way, but I should have changed for this meeting actually. Yeah.
Open for questions. Yes.
Don't you think that intercropping systems play a key role in increasing the pulse production in India?
Yeah, actually, this is my mistake here. It is there in the documents, one of the thing. I picked up few things actually, where we had the cost benefit ratios and detailed analysis. But this is there in the detail with even given the areas where it can be done, sugarcane where it can go, with which crops which can go, and other intercropping. It's given there.
Yeah, I think Peter has been asking this question the last many weeks about what happens if India gets self-sufficient in the pulses and Africa is exporting a lot. But I have assured him that with the change of government, they will concentrate on rice and forget about pulses, and we will keep exporting. So I'm not very worried about that. But I think particularly on chickpea, there is a growing demand, but also an increasing area in Africa, in many of the countries that are growing chickpea. And I think many of the materials that are coming out of your program are doing very well across the various ecologies in Eastern and Southern Africa. So just as we are worrying about machine harvesting here, I think we need to start also thinking about it maybe in the region as the area under chickpea also increases. I think for pigeon pea, Peter, for us the solution is going into processing into dough and not selling it whole, in which case even if we sell less, but we are getting it as a high value product, that might offset the negatives in having to deal with a less lucrative market.
Just a follow-up on the question of chickpea. Ethiopia's Central Statistics Agency latest figures show 1.93 tons per hectare, and Ethiopian Growth and Development Plan targets 2.8 tons per hectare in the next several years, 5 years. And in India, the highest, I think you're estimating slightly over 1 ton per hectare. Yeah. This question I keep receiving from people who are visiting from outside Ethiopia. And probably you may help me also in getting answers. Why is the chickpea yield in India, being the largest producer, still very low? And yet in Ethiopia, which is not as a high producer, the yields are much higher.
Yeah. So one thing very simple is the growing environment. If you see Ethiopia, the duration of the crop you have and the kind of growing condition you have, which, we don't have that opportunity in India. So that's the big, factor in productivity. If you see the, the growing period, length of growing period here, like in Patancheru here, you have 90 days crop, and you see here, there you have, how many days you have? More than 140, 160 days crop actually.
The shortest is 110. Actually,
yeah, shortest, that is the shortest,
So maturing 110.
Yeah, so that's, big difference. And the crop season, we don't get, here much rains, and this is totally dry, and this is in there. And then, of course, the adoption of technologies in India is still, I will say, is very less. If you see still in central India and many places, even farmers, they are growing 40 years old varieties. So the extension part is still, I will say, very big. Yeah.
Good. Thanks a lot, Dr. Ramjit. I think you made very good presentation, and Dr. Gaur mentioned, so I mean that I want to make 2-3 comments. One is that this document, especially strategy, the ICRISAT document, institutional strategy, where many other programs now, because earlier we were at the different kind of restructure, but now after restructuring, people are the different programs. So this is not just regional Asia program document, and this is the institutional thing. And we have been also discussing with the different platform in India, including the last one what National Academy and ICR have organized. So, and they talk different things. So this as Dr. Gaur mentioned, so one is this production, and for production we are talking more about this targeting the rice fellowage, etc. But for productivity, thing is, as you mentioned, that we were talking about these 100 hubs, and Director General ICRISAT already mentioned to ICR, committed to Director General of ICR, just for information, out of 100 hubs to have 2 hubs at ICRISAT Patancheru. So basically, they have made this kind of commitment. And the third commitment is, well, not commitment, but then the third point is, which is very important for us to understand, and India, this is coming very strongly nowadays. So in general, we say we need 4 million ton pulses. So we should understand when they say 4 million tons, so you cannot add any kind of pulses in this block of the 4 million. So they say, if you need chickpea, that cannot be replaced by pigeon pea, for instance, or by mung bean, or by this thing. So what we need to do basically, that now, especially for those 2 crops, what we are working on, chickpea and pigeon pea, we need to have much more clarity, because at that time point when we were developing this document, we targeted 5 pulses, which are important pulses for India, and we did like that one. And the last thing is that now in this case, and that as you mentioned, Dr. Raju and Dr. Vani, and we were working with PMOs. So, and as you mentioned that you did not present everything. In fact, for that short term, we asked for 1200 crores to the government of India. And this year, Mr. Prime Minister already released 500 crore for this pulses. And right now, this money is with the Ministry of Agriculture. So we need to see, as ICRISAT, our engagement, that how we can contribute with India, and we can contribute something in this direction. So I think, so again, this is again Dr. Vani, Dr. Raju, Dr. Pooran M Gaur also. So these issues, that these strategy under the leadership of Director General and with Peter Carver and other people. So when we submitted to the government of India, they already have considered several of our requests, and things started to happen. So we need to basically harness those kind of areas that we can really work with the government of India and can contribute in this direction. So this is not question, this is just something.
There is one point I would like to highlight here is that particularly for the chickpea season, what we find is that various parts of India, particularly during January and February, the maximum temperature actually it has increased by 1 to 1.5 degree in the last 15 to 20 years. In fact, even in ICRISAT, we find that there is actually 1.5 degree change. In fact, 1.5 in 60 days, almost it comes to something like 70 growing degree days. So that is going to impact the phenology of the crop to some extent. This is actually a challenge, but also perhaps we can think of finding the areas where the niche areas can be different for different varieties. Perhaps that can be a part where we can share more information on this thing, because we already mapped some of those things.
Yeah. In fact, the heat area, we started working very seriously about 7-8 years back, and I'm very confident, the way the chickpea research is going, here and in India, the many better varieties are now coming. Every year you see still we have a crop, where we are screening for heat tolerance. This time you can see in the field they are podding, good thing, very good variations, and you will have varieties, which can be, tolerating these. Already there are varieties now, and the future varieties, in the way the Indian program and our program is going up, we will have much better varieties which will be tolerant, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, Pooran, trying to link a little bit your presentation with Kaushal's presentation on water use efficiency before. Well, we've done quite a bit of modeling analysis on this, on having the effect of small irrigation, small allocation of water to a crop like chickpea would take, yield way up, 30-40%. We tested that, experimentally. So that's the sort of thing that probably should be recommended. Wherever irrigation is available in, for example, all the Madhya Pradesh region,
yeah.
To the Prime Minister office. That's one thing. The second thing that you are aware of, we've done a yield gap analysis for chickpea in India, where we can sort of clearly distinguish regions where, in terms of what is to be done to first boost yield, either using genetics or either using agronomy to boost productivity.
Yeah. For irrigation, Vincent, this is one issue which is, discussed all the times in pulse meetings, and the policy makers, they say that you say that if you give irrigation, the production will be doubled, and they say that when we make irrigation available, first thing they do is they leave pulses and grow the high value crops. So, it's really a dilemma, when they have assured irrigation, they don't grow pulses. So what we are saying that, okay, you have irrigation, life-saving irrigation where there is no irrigation available, then probably they will continue to grow pulses. But you have enough irrigation, they switch to, other high value crops.
Pooran, again, another area where you've generated lots of interest. So part of this is a planning meeting, not a science meeting for discussion. So what I want to see is how does ICRISAT respond to this great opportunity, the Indian government wanting to be pulse self-sufficient, but also want us to be scientists and ask critical questions about that. It's exactly what you said there. You can see Bangladesh as an example has much more developed efforts around rice fallows. They've moved into other crops in the rabi. And what do? They skip straight over pulses into maize production.
Yeah.
So you can't just assume that people will grow pulses because there's fallow land there. We, as a research organisation, have to be asking the questions about, well, these opening up these lands or other opportunities. There is alternative investment from farmers. They can grow maize, for instance, as opposed to pulses. So we want to, on the one hand, take the opportunity on board and push it because it's our mandate. On the other, ask the critical questions about what's the level of investment. The economists should be asking, well, is it cost effective to be importing pulses rather than investing in growing themselves? ICRISAT should be asking those questions as well, not just being proponents for pulses because we're a pulse research institute. So in terms of the planning for the program, I want to see this nuanced, diversified set of questions that come out of this particular issue.
That was an interesting and very good presentation on post-harvest and storage. It will be very interesting to see how we can address that, because I find most of the quality issues on these mandate crops post-harvest are somehow at a lower level, and I see that as an opportunity for us to work post-harvest storage and quality.
Yeah, there in this document, we had emphasis that, we have technologies available. I mean, the national system and the other institutes, very well technologies, small scale storage, large scale storage. It's only how the government can support those initiatives, for the storage. Farmers level, like, if small quantities, these triple layer bags, how can they be promoted? And other storage methods, It's just, not any research on this area, because this was developed with Indian systems. They say technology is already in the place. It's the matter of, government bringing in money and, extending the technologies to the farmers and the others. Yeah.
So thank you very much.